Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday night, and it's already been a very busy week for earnings. And three of my stocks reported, and I have a special discussion of Tesla as well at the end of the video because there's a lot of good stuff going on for Tesla right now. So a lot of positivity in the market, and I may ask, is innovation back? Is innovation back? Well, actually, I believe innovation never stopped to be a thing. It's never been gone. It's always been there. But it's just that as inflation goes down, the market slowly realizes and gets more sensitive to these companies and the outstanding results that these companies are having. So let's go. Let's review some of the Q4s and let's get started with the first Q4 being Palantir. So Palantir Q4 earnings was good. It was good. The stock is up 21%. The company reported profitability for the first time 2 years early, GAAP profitability. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know that GAAP, I don't like GAAP. I'm not a big fan of GAAP, but I'm the only one who doesn't like GAAP. The market loves GAAP. The market likes GAAP earnings, never mind that it takes cash away from the business, never mind that it slows down hiring in sales and marketing, never mind that it slows down R&D. The market right now is so short-sighted, it wants GAAP earnings, Palantir was fine with its cash flow. It didn't need to show earnings, but they decided to do that. And because they decided to do that, the stock price is up, 21% because they decided to show earnings. That's one of the reasons I think why the Palantir stock is really in a good setup for 2023. Another reason is because I've listened to the call yesterday and read the letter, and you see they're emphasizing AI a lot. They're talking about AI a lot. And right now, the market is entering an AI euphoria phase, I would argue. And so Palantir is positioning itself there. And as far as short-term, stock price movements, that's the right way to go. But then again, focusing on GAAP earnings at this stage, while they're still early and they're trying to grow, I would much rather them just be cash flow positive, GAAP earnings negative, and invest more in the business for growth. And you'll see why I say that. I am saying that because I've been back and forth in Palantir. I love the technology. I love the idea. I entirely agree with them that Foundry is where the future of business is headed. Every single business is going to run like a big tech company. They are going to have a business that is fully automated, fully running itself and running on its own. But to me, it's a special situation now for Palantir where it's a previous buy. It was clearly a buy throughout 2021. This company had a lot of potential. And now it's a previous buy and hold stock because I don't feel like selling the company. I feel like the company has a lot going for it. So I'm holding the position for the long run, but I'm not adding unless we see big dips. Like if the company goes back towards the 6th level, maybe I'll add a little bit. But I'm not adding because Palantir is very early, and some may say too early for their Foundry business. This is for Foundry, they are early. We are not in the data app age, right? We're not at the age yet where companies run themselves from data apps and where data informs decision making to the point that you have an AI-driven company. We're not at that stage yet. And really, Alex Karp said that on the call when he was discussing Europe. The current stage we're at is the dashboard and business intelligence age. Companies are just trying to figuring out big data. We're just at the beginning where they're realizing, oh wow, we need big data. We need data lakes. We need data warehouses. We need to analyze our data. We need to organize our data and see it cleanly in a dashboard. That's, I believe, the era we're in. And when we're moving to that next stage of the data applications running the business from data, before we move to that next stage, we first need to make sure that most companies actually do big data analysis and do dashboards and business intelligence. And Alex Karp he said, Foundry is an expensive software, as he said, and it's going to be sold mostly to large U.S. enterprises in the U.S. And he said, Europe, for example, Middle East, Africa, lots of companies over there are slow to adopt technology, and they're not jumping on the fully automated view of any business running like a big tech business, right? It's not there yet. I believe the company is early, very early. And the guidance for Palantir, I'm very positive about Palantir. It's great, everything's going on, but the guidance is disappointing to me. The goal of my channel is to beat the denominator. I look for the best stocks. I don't look for a great growth stock. I look for the best ones. And I'm sorry, but when you have when you are guiding for 15% revenue growth overall, you're a good growth stock, a great growth stock, arguably, but you're not the best growth stock. And so that's the second time that I am disappointed by revenue growth from Palantir. The business is growing fast relative to the S&P 500 or relative to a big tech company like Amazon or Google. It's growing faster than that. But, relative to, say, a leading company in the same space, well, in not exactly the same space, in the space just under Palantir. I just want to make clear, Snowflake is just one of the things that Palantir connects to. Snowflake has a smaller vision, has a less complete vision. But Snowflake's vision is right within the data analysis, data gathering, data lake vision. It's Snowflake's prime time right now. Businesses right now, they don't see the vision of Palantir just yet. They will, but they don't just yet. Right now, businesses focus on those business intelligence tools, on those single panes of glass to know what's going on in the business and analyze the business. And that's Snowflake stage. Snowflake and other types of business. Databricks is another one that competes with Snowflake. It's their stage. And the revenue growth of Snowflake guided. This is the guidance from the CEO of Snowflake for full year 2023, 49% revenue guidance. And I made a video talking about that, and it's a heavily sandbagged guidance, right? So even though slow is below Palantir in the structure of the enterprise OS of the future, it's still in prime time right now. It's prime time growth for Snowflake. Palantir is not prime time growth yet. And to be fair, Alex noted on the call that they're still aiming for 40% revenue growth long-term in the U.S. commercial foundry business, right? We are still aiming for 30%. So this is very good. That's a long-term target. And that would be in line with what has been guided previously. So if you do U.S. commercial growing this fast, and then you complete that with the rest of the business, which is Gotham, the military business, and Apollo, the software deployment business, these are much slower growth, of course, than Foundry. You add them both of them, you can realistically see a 30% long-term revenue growth for Palantir, which would be a 30% compound annual growth rate, right? Which is what I look for in the channel. It would still be there, but there is uncertainty. There is uncertainty because the growth of Foundry, the 40%, that's a long-term target. Today, the growth of Foundry is going to be much lower than even 15%, because the whole business is going to grow at 15%. So don't forget, their military business is still growing. So there is a slowdown in Foundry because it's really not the current stage, right? Foundry could begin to begin its steep growth curve, right? Technologies get adopted in S curves. Foundry could begin its S curve maybe in 24, maybe in 25, maybe in 26. Right? Some argue that they don't even have the right sales team, and that they may not even begin that S curve one day. Some argue that because they don't really sell software like software is sold today, right? They have an expensive top-down approach to selling software. But we don't know when the steep part of the revenue growth, right, which Snowflake clearly is in with its 49% growth next year, we don't know when that part is going to begin and when that part is going to kick in. However, why one would ask, why am I not interested in selling Palantir? Why do I think Palantir is still a great hold, and I don't think anybody can be faulted for owning Palantir? Because only the terminal value of a business matters. And regardless of what Foundry does, the terminal value of Palantir with its military business is probably the fourth player in the US military industrial complex. If they become the fourth player in that military industrial complex that the US has, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Dynamics, if they become the fourth one, the fourth main contractor of the US government, no investment advice, but you have a 10x built in. You have a 10x built in that business just from them achieving, within 10, 15 years, achieving that status of being the fourth contractor for the United States government and allies, and being the fourth contractor for the U.S. military-industrial complex. And, with all of the uncertainty in the world, I would not discount the government business of Palantir. I actually think they have a monopoly in that space, and it's not a space to be discounted, especially as we watch the news and we see always turmoil, geopolitical turmoil all over. So I believe this is a pretty big deal. All right, let me move on. The second company that I follow on this channel, I've made one video about it, and I talked a bit in my weekly updates on valuation. It's Airbnb. Airbnb, I believe, is still positioned to be the leading platform for travel and what I, kindly call the Gen Z life. Airbnb is on fire. There is still tremendous pent-up demand for 2020. Not everybody was able to go in 2021, 2022. I believe there's going to be pent-up demand for years for travel of people who want to catch up. And it depends on the state you were in, of course. Some states really weren't traveling in 2021 at all. So there's still a lot of pent-up demand. The growth is still very, very high for Airbnb. We are at 40% in dollars, right? Terms, 40% growth 2022 over 2021. It would have been 46% without foreign exchange. The dollar went up, so that's down. And the business, this is Q4 2022 right here, the full quarter. This is trailing 12 month, and this is Q4 2021. You can see Q4 2021 to Q4 2022, we were at 31% growth between those two. And traveling is a seasonal business. That's why we have these bumps in the full quarter revenues. But if you compare the non-seasonal part of the business, like the slow year for travel, which are, January through March and like March through June. If you compare these two, so Q1, Q2 of 2022, Q1, Q2 of 2021, you're at 56% growth. So the business is growing tremendously in the slow months and is growing very, very nicely in the busy months. So this is a big deal. I argue this is a big deal. Airbnb is transforming into something that is very, very big, much larger than any hotel chains. And I just want to put some data into perspectives. First of all, Airbnb, if you travel on your own and if you travel alone and if you travel for work, you may not see the value of Airbnb. But the value of Airbnb, frankly, to me, Airbnb is the best cost provider for families. If you travel, say, imagine you're unlucky and you're lucky, but imagine as far as hotels go, you're unlucky and you're like a family of 5. How do you do hotels if there's 5 people in your house? Right? 3 hotel rooms. That's totally uneconomical to travel the old way if you are just 3 people. So if you are a group of at least 3 people traveling, Airbnb, more often than not, is going to be the best bang for your buck. And when a product is both the best and the cheapest, i.e. the best bang for your buck, it tends to win. And I believe that's what we're seeing for Airbnb. A lot of people are catching on that instead of renting a whole bunch of hotel rooms, which are going to have odd pricing depending on the time of the week, right? You can just rent a whole house. I think that's what a lot of people are catching on to. Airbnb wants to grow the number of host houses there as well. That's all part of the business. They acquire their product, right? They're a platform. So the service sold on the platform, right? That product, which is the room for rent, that service. So they're acquiring from hosts who already own the extra space, right? Perhaps in their house. That's how Airbnb got started. But perhaps mom and pop renters who decided to not rent the single family house. Maybe this time they decide to just buy an apartment or rent an apartment. So if you look at the listings on Airbnb, they have 6.6 million active listings worldwide. And I don't have worldwide data, but I have US data to put a little perspective to this. Just think about the scale, right? The scale is insane. There's 84 single family homes in the US, so 6.6 million. There's going to be a big chunk of that space that is used for Airbnb. But even better, there are 5.2 million hotel rooms in the USA. Airbnb has more listings worldwide, active listings, than there are hotel rooms in the United States. And this is a business that can scale. Is it a business that 10 years from now is going to have 30 million listings? That business already has more housing power, if I may make up the concept. It has more housing power than the entire hotel industry of the United States. This is a very, very highly scalable business. Airbnb is global, and it has just begun, right? What's another big thing for Airbnb, which I think is a big part of a disruption, and what I call the Gen Z life, is a lot of guests are staying longer on Airbnb. 50% of stays on Airbnb are over 1 week. 22% of stays are over 28 days, and right, that's the month of February. So what does that mean to us? Like there's more and more people staying longer on Airbnb. What that tells us is that for perhaps a lot of the younger generation, and maybe even the retired generation, maybe they prefer to just travel from Airbnb to Airbnb. Maybe this replaces RVs. Maybe this replaces even short-term rentals, right? Sign a lease for 3 months at a big apartment complex. Are you going to do that, or would you rather do Airbnb? So I would say one needs to be careful, because they are attacking the mom and pop rental real estate business. In my view, like if you're switching homes or if you're doing anything like that, in my view, they're attacking that. And I could really see them do a type of subscription a la WeWork, right? At some point where it's like you pay $2,000 a month to Airbnb, and Airbnb finds you like 6 places to stay throughout the year, and it's $2,000 a month, and you just always move and always change your location. That is part of a major change in how people see their work, their virtual work, right? Working remotely, and also living in different places. This is very, very culturally aligned with the trends of today. So this business, I believe, has a lot of potential. And I'm very happy with the quarter. We are still growing tremendously fast, and I think they should keep growing tremendously fast. All right. The third business that is doing very well is Nubank. So Nubank has posted 112% revenue growth compared to last year's quarter. That is just absolutely insane when you have this much revenue growth. 100% revenue growth, it's more than a doubling of your revenues. So it's insane, right? Q4 21, Q4 22, 112%. That's all there is to say. Customers are growing, even though they're hitting the wall in the number of customers in terms of, for example, in Brazil, they have huge penetration in Brazil. So they're focusing on optimizing themselves for profits, right? Increasing their gross profits. And they're reaching the law of large numbers, at least for the Brazilian market when it comes to customers. But they're doing cross-selling, which is like a big deal for any type of fintech, is they are cross-selling. So you can see, right, out of their the people who have active accounts, right? You have 86% of people who have accounts that are active, that have active new accounts. And then these are all of the products that they're using. And that's your cross-selling right here. So out of the 86% who have active digital wallets through Nubank, 55% of a credit card, 12% of investments, 8% of the loans. And then this is where a lot of the growth comes from. The more they use these services and they add them on, the more you can grow revenue. And that's how you can grow revenue so much faster. And that's the cross-sell rate, right? That's the cross-sell rate. Nubank is mostly a Brazilian company. But when you look at the stats, right? So Brazil, they have 44% penetration in Brazil. 44% of Brazilians have a Nubank account. But they just started out in Mexico and Colombia. So ask yourself, they're going to add more. They're going to add more countries. And these countries, because of a lot of large numbers, are going to grow very, very fast. So could we envision a future where they have most countries in Latin America there? I could. Nubank appears to be the Square with SoFi-like offerings in Latin America. That's the best description I have. And the reason why I call it the Square is because if you look at the number of Cash App wallets in the US, you're a little under, but you're close to the number of people who have the Nubank app in Brazil. 44% of adults in Brazil have the Nubank app, right? And we know that Cash App in the US is more than 80 million people that have it, right? 58%, this is where they shine, 58% use Nubank as their primary bank. And my guess is that much of this is induced demand. People who didn't have banks all of a sudden have banks, right? In other words, Nubank is the bank of 29% of Brazilians. Remember, Brazil is a huge country, more than 200 million people, decent economic growth, a lot of younger generation. I did a whole video about Brazil and about trying to understand the Brazilian market. One day I'll go on vacation there because I want to understand this market. That's the biggest market in Latin America, and so many of the good stocks that I follow on both these channels, so many stocks in Brazil are like really, really good. So I'm always wondering what's going on in Brazil. So, and the cost for Nubank is only $23 billion. So $23 billion for a company that has the potential to one day be bigger than the JP Morgan of the US. That's future investing right there. I think this is a very, very big positive development for Nubank. I think they have so much going for them. And let me finish with the last company, which did not report earnings, but that has a lot of things going on right now, which leads me to say, is innovation back? Well, innovation never went away, but the market is slowly waking up to innovation and growth stocks. And it's, I'm bittersweet because I like to buy stocks inexpensively. So it's a little bittersweet to see the market catching up on this. But you like to see the portfolio going up. So that's good too. Okay, let's talk about Tesla. Tesla, can the good news stop coming for Tesla? Can they stop coming? Where do I even begin? We've had good news after good news. I would have had to make a video every day, but there's like dozens of YouTube channels who make videos every day about Tesla, so I don't need to talk about it. But $80,000. This was the big fear, right? When the stock was crashing, the big fear is that the Model Y wouldn't be eligible for the $7,500 tax credit up to 80,000. Well, they changed, right? It's eligible. So because the Model Y is now eligible for a tax credit up to 80 grand, consistent incremental price increases have been happening. The inventory, the Model Y, remember, this is the cash cow of Tesla. Tesla has a cash cow called the Model Y. The Model Y is literally at an all-time low. It's at an all-time low. And when the stock was crashing, we were right here and people were like, oh, there's no demand for the car. Nobody's buying the car, right? That's short-sighted. You see it go up. And you can, anyways, it's all-time low now. So we're back to this level, right? Semi production started. They're building a bunch of semis, selling them to Pepsi. Okay. Megapack production, well, it's been started for a while, but it's ramping up. It's ramping up. Government incentives for chargers and battery production. A big part of the discussion right now is opening the chargers up. So they're going to get billions of dollars from the US government. They're going to get tax credits. These tax credits are going to save on Tesla's earnings for developing these green incentives. You have a 75% tax credit that Tesla is also going to get. And this is the last thing that I think nudged me to add Tesla to this video. I was not going to add Tesla, but I'm adding Tesla because I saw this earlier today, which is Ford altered the F-150 production due to a potential battery issue. And I've watched a lot of reviews of F-150, and there's been a bunch of issues with F-150, with people just returning the truck because it just stops for no reason and things like that. And if they have a big battery issue and they have to replace all of the batteries, that could really, really hurt Ford. Ford's having issues with its F-150, and remember that Ford poured all of its energy in the F-150. But the threat to Ford is that the Cybertruck is coming later this year. And this today happened to the number one car in America. The number one car in America is the F-150, the most profitable car, the most sold car. It's the F-150. It's a truck, but it's the F-150. I drive around down here in Texas, and everywhere. Trucks are everywhere. Not just F-150s, trucks of all kinds. Like people love trucks in the US. And this product, just because it is different by the very nature of its difference, I cannot even imagine the ramp. Like Tesla is going to sell so many of these Cybertrucks at literally whatever cost it wants. Because remember, these Ford trucks are not cheap. Like a lot of people down here, they have Ford Raptors. These cost like $80,000, $90,000. I just want to say, if you're outside of the US, I just want to say, people love trucks here. This is like the number one seller. And Tesla is coming for the number one automotive product in the US this year. At the same time as the best-selling automotive product in the US, the F-150 Lightning, the electric version of that product, is going into issues. So I think Tesla is set up really, really well for 2023 and beyond. And I was so happy to add to Tesla when the stock dropped. Like most people, I did not add enough, like most people. So anyways, this was not investment advice, right? Always entertainment, not investment advice. I appreciate any subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.